The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar by solutionXchg of our Innovate, Accelerate, and Elevate series. Today's topic is archive migration for SAP ArchiveLink content repositories. We're very happy you could attend and hope you will find today's topic interesting. My name is Kristen Gerling, and I will be your host throughout the session. Our presentation today will take about 45 minutes, and then we'll have some 5 to 10 minutes reserved for questions at the end. I would like to give you a few procedural and technical notes up front. All our participants are on mute during the full duration of this webinar. And if you have any questions, please post any questions or concerns through the questions function in your GoToWebinar administration panel on the right side of your screen. If you cannot hear us or cannot see the presentation, please also alert us through this question panel. We'll be happy to send out transcripts of the slides for those who are interested after the webinar. Please let us know through an email to info@solutionexchg.com. That is spelled info@solutionXchg.com. But let's dive right into the topic. Our speaker today will be my business partner, Jochen Hager. Jochen, would you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Kristen. My name is Jochen Hager, and I'm also a managing partner with solutionXchg. Today, we're talking about SAP document and data archiving topics, specifically about archive migration, merging and consolidating SAP ArchiveLink compliant archives. Kristen and I have been in this business for many, many years. We have over 15 years experience in Europe and here in the United States, the last 17, 18 years in the United States. And specifically here on my 20 plus years, I have been doing this in various occupational positions. Lately, after we've seen over the years the first wave of companies adopting SAP ArchiveLink compliant archives for various business reasons, whether that was for data archiving purposes or document management purposes around financial documents, HR documents, purchasing documents, all kinds of documents using the integration, SAP's unique integration into the business processes. After that first wave, we now see more and more companies who over the years have accumulated various archives because companies are large organizations. They have maybe been through mergers and acquisitions and brought multiple content repositories in-house. They might have started a consolidation effort on just one enterprise-wide content repository, still have some dedicated content repositories around. There's all kinds of scenarios. We now see companies merging and archives. We see companies separating out archiving information because of divestitures, and we see companies just sunsetting systems that have been in use for many years but are ailing, maintenance hasn't been paid up. So there's a number of different reasons, and merging, consolidating SAP archives becomes more and more of a topic of interest for the industry. So I covered some of what's here on the slide. I jumped ahead a little bit. SAP archiving, as I said, has been around for more than 20 years. There's a number of customers that have archiving solutions, others that don't. Some have ECM solutions with SAP connectivity, namely FileNet archiving solution, OpenText archiving solutions, and EMC Documentum archiving solutions. Those are more your broad EMC type solutions. And then there is very On the other end of the spectrum, we have those quick start SAP archiving only products. Also, almost two other categories there. We have the bare bones SAP content server, with its proprietary database, and we have other products that are very suitable but also lightweight, don't come with the baggage of a full ECM solution, but are more like the IXA solution of the old days that is not available anymore, but allows you to very effectively serve just for one purpose, and that is SAP archiving for documents and data archives. If you look at these ECM solutions, many of these ECM solutions have been oversized for their actual needs. They have been sized and built often many years ago to cover the whole enterprise. And what turns out to be the case in many situations is the companies don't really use it for all and every documents. In many cases, it stays a point solution for which it was originally bought. That's at least what we observe. And for that, it's often too expensive, and also built on technology that is 20 years old, that is built based on an archive server, a large database, a multi-tier architecture, and there is significant cost savings that can be achieved right now with products that are much more geared to just that particular purpose, and that's just SAP archiving by itself, without any of the frills of covering other business areas with it as well. So that is another good reason why people should look at migrations, is to maybe even if they don't have a need of an ailing archiving system that needs replaced, proactively look at your SAP archiving infrastructure, and then figure out what you can do to save money, and maybe choose a product that is just as effective but way more cost efficient in a day-to-day operational basis. And the same migration technique applies for both scenarios, whether you replace an ailing system, whether you consolidate systems into one new system, whether you plan on exchanging a dinosaur against something more modern, more lean, as it applies to your specific situation. So when you look at those dinosaurs, and I pointed out some of that, you have often a complex administration scenario where you have a database administration, storage administration, archive server administration. You might be faced with hardware support fees because you have dedicated hardware in place. That hardware needs to be maintained. That hardware needs to be serviced. Database maintenance. Databases need constant backups that require the house cleaning of cleaning out redo logs, and making sure the database is inaccessible and yet has a proper backup with it. So these larger solutions, if they are not really used in a larger context, are very expensive and put you at a significant cost disadvantage. So how do you solve that? Well, one, you should look at a new system that is really in line with to-do standards. You can look at various migration techniques. We specifically have used one involving a product by a company, KGS Software, that makes migrations very fast and literally risk-free with zero end-user impact. And I will be telling you a customer story, a use case here in the next few slides that will walk you through that specific scenario, what we did, what you would have to look out for. Actually, I have two use cases. I'll start with one and we'll see how far we get into the second use case. And once you have done that migration, significant savings can be realized because you're able to shut down those ailing systems. You're maybe moving on to a cheaper architecture with much less hardware, with much less software involved. So without further ado, now that I set the stage a little bit, let's move into a case study. And this one here was for a large banking client, and I'll describe what steps we took to prepare that migration process. A little bit of a project review. A large Fortune 5000 banking customer, nationwide business operations. The archives in questions were used by hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, all over the United States, from branch locations to headquarter locations. The bank had multiple IT teams in multiple locations. High availability backup scenarios in place, a very regulated IT environment. They approached us to consolidate two archiving systems, two SAP compliant archiving systems, and SAP content server system that was used for a proprietary application they have been they wrote using a web interface. The documents were accessible through that web interface as well as linked to SAP business objects. And then an open text solution they wanted to sunset because they didn't plan on continuing the use of OpenText. They had specifically consolidated on a FileNet architecture as a company-wide standard, and that OpenText system also had not been updated for many years because of that, and now was supposed to be shut down to save on maintenance cost. Significant synergies were supposed to be gained out of the consolidation of the two systems into one new system, eliminating dual annual maintenance costs for the legacy product, consolidate hardware cost, hardware maintenance, operations cost, database cost, storage cost, overall total cost of ownership for these SAP archiving solutions was supposed to go down. Our task at hand was to migrate all valid documents from an Ixos OpenText and SAP content server legacy archive to a new corporate standard FileNet archive. The approach we were supposed to choose was one with no end user impact while performing the migration. Business operations could not be at a standstill. They had to go on. The clients, bank clients all around the nation had to be able to get to their documents with as little as downtime as possible. And we had to stay within strict time and budget restrictions, which also did guide us throughout the project. What we chose was and what we proposed was a migration using the KGS migration for ArchiveLink tool. And as you can see in this graphic, the tool has a specific advantage. It basically is inserted in a proxy functionality between your SAP system and your source archiving system. So that up here is your source system, your ailing legacy system, the system you want to maybe get your data off, and the data and the KGS migration server with proxy functionality is inserted in the middle. So nothing changes from an end user perspective. It's just a slight configuration change in SAP. So instead of going directly to the source system, we change the customizing in SAP to go to the KGS migration server, and then the KGS migration server serves as a proxy, as an in-between, and has the capability to load the documents from the source archive. And I think you know where I'm going with that. So that particular route here keeps all existing documents available with just a minimal customizing change that basically just that happens with a change in one configuration table in SAP, and is a minimal downtime of, if you want to, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. If you plan it out and shut out all the users of your SAP system, maybe a half hour to process it all. Now, So that's one aspect of it. We want to preserve that you can still get to your source archiving system. The other aspect of it is how does the actual migration take place? Now, the migration is powered and is driven by this migration server engine, which is a standalone, could be a VMware software that sits outside SAP and is primed by all the document IDs we have in the SAP link tables. So we load a database here, a MySQL database on that migration cache server with all the document IDs from the SAP link tables, and that allows you to pull the documents from the source system and then based on the configuration here on the migration server, pump it into the target system. And that is an ongoing cycle here that runs completely in the background, does not impact your SAP system at all. It can run day and night at whatever speed you need to. And we'll talk a little bit later about speed and how we adjust the migration functionalities so that we max out the speed between all these components, but at the same time, we're not impacting any end user retrievals. Now, another big advantage of the migration server is that you can actually start putting documents into your new target system immediately from day one. You can the configuration here on the cache migration server is twofold. You tell it where to find the old documents that are basically, once you insert the migration server, become static. No documents are added to your source archiving system, and where it should put the new document. So SAP is none the wiser. It just thinks it communicates with one archiving system, but the cache server, migration server intelligently determines where to find the documents. Is this an old document? I get it from the source archiving system. Is this a new document? I pull it from the new target archiving system. So a completely seamless, high performance capabilities, so no impact on the end users, and seamless migration in the background. In this particular project, we migrated 2.8 million documents in about 16 days from start to finish. Pure migration work. I'm not including the work that needed to be done to stand up the new FileNet archiving system. That was a separate part of the project, and I also didn't include the work that was done to bring down the legacy archiving systems once the migration was done, or all the preparations. I'm just talking about the pure time, the time that it took to move documents from one server to the other. And that's what it took, about 16 days, 2.8 million documents, roughly with the speed we could muster on, with the capability of the servers involved, the databases involved. We had some severe limitations there. We had an ailing SAP content server. I'll talk about that a little later. That it was very limited in how many documents you could get out of it. And we had some restrictions on the Exos OpenText system as well, because it was an older system. The hardware was just not beefy enough to get more documents. So we were kind of limited to 250,000 documents per day for effective migration tasks. And we had quite a few different logical archives. We had A2, A3, A4, A5, and an SDB archive for SAP Office documents in different locations, two different archiving systems consolidating into one, as I said before. So what we did is, first we put together a migration procedure. We in detail analyzed A2, A3, A4, the documents that are known to SAP. We analyzed the documents that are on the SAP content server and on the Exos system. Because documents these systems have been moved around, have been connected to multiple SAP systems, there was in fact a discrepancy between what SAP thought it had in terms of documents and what type of documents and the amount of documents that were on these specific archive servers. So we created three classes of documents: those that were all clean and good, those that could be verified in SAP, and in the Exos OpenText or SAP content server. So documents where we basically had a link entry and a document ID on in a SAP system as well, in the leading business application as well as in the archive system. We had those extras that are existing in SAP, but didn't have any links in the legacy archives. Those could have been documents that were lost during a previous migration. We had that specific situation where on the IXO side, a previous migration had taken place from optical platters to ISO images, warm images on magnetical disk. And if one of these platters in that previous migration was not readable, that would have led to lost documents. So there's always that risk. There weren't that many there in this particular case, or sometimes an archiving run in SAP fails and nobody noticed it from an administration perspective, and the documents never make it into the storage location. That can be the case. Believe me, we've dealt with archives that have been in operation for 20 plus years, and there's a lot that can happen in 20 plus years, and therefore careful analysis up front really pays off and gives you a good idea what to expect, and you're much more prepared to work through some of the specific situations rather than going in panic mode if you realize that certain documents are not retrievable. If you do your analysis before, you clearly understand what to expect, which documents you will find, which documents will create an error in the attempt to migrate. And so that's what we did. We did a good pre-organization into these three classes: the good, the extras, and the unconfirmed. We split up the load by date, by calendar year, and split it up in batches of approximately 250,000, which is turned out for this particular configuration to be the sweet spot in terms of speed and time. The system can be scaled quite a bit. We can run multiple of these migration servers in parallel. We have done so in another case study I have also as part of this deck here, but I probably won't have enough time to go into the details here. But we had in another scenario, we had 4 migration servers running in parallel, each of which was able to do 250K plus documents, so more than 1 million documents in a day. That's also doable. Each of these migration servers actually runs with multiple instances, so it runs multiple processes in parallel to pull the documents. I/O, after all, is the threshold here, is the bottleneck, is the throttle, and we try to max out I/O and document retrieval speed on the source archiving servers. Usually the source servers are the slow servers because the target server obviously is a brand new machine, or your target machine, that's usually a beefy and speedy process. But with all of that, we were tracking individual runs and error analysis for each run, very documented, because there is actually a validation database that is filled for every single document that is migrated. So we have a clear audit record for every single document that we're moving around, what its size was before, what the size was after writing, what the when it was migrated, maybe even what MIME type it was, and other information about the document. The challenges we had is that we had a total volume of 2.8 million and about 2 times the number of components, because there were notes to it, annotations to the documents. Annotations are actually a very specific topic. If you have an archive with annotations, make sure you talk to a specialist. Be happy to help you understand what the difficulties is around annotations. But a lot of archives have annotations, and they're usually proprietary, so the special techniques have to be adopted. This particular situation also dealt with a highly unstable SAP content server archive that required daily rebooting because it had a process as part of one of the original components that had a memory leak, so we had to work around that and make sure it was rebooted before we started our migration and right after, so that the server was available for day-to-day use again. Again, some of the details of what we did, I already mentioned that we validated each migrated documents against SAP, against the external application to prove that we have completeness. We switched to a secured multi-level archive architecture with a centralized storage, and we managed to keep the cutover events to a bare minimum. And it says here 1 hour. That's about what it took us with all the bank's requirements around getting off the people off the system, making sure multiple stakeholders were involved, were giving their okays, taking down the system, switching over to the other archive, switching the configuration in SAP, bringing the system back up, and then doing some verification to make sure that the configuration changes actually were okay and everything was done. But we managed to do the whole migration of these two systems with a downtime that was less than 2 hours, and those downtime took place at night during the regular maintenance windows, and as an end effect, we basically had no downtime whatsoever noticeable for the end users. We brought in a full service migration project team, all the necessary SAP skills, all the OpenText skills, all the archiving skills for the migration server, and the necessary platform and database skills. We have a team that is very powerful, has been in the industry for many years, different experts, but all of us are knowledgeable in all these areas, and we can substitute for each other, as well as providing special insight with our expertise into some of these topics. So in this chain of events, really reducing the risk for migration is the key topic, the linchpin. This is what makes your migration a success, to make it easy, to make it fast, and to make it highly risk reduced. It needs to be fast too, because if you start this, and we have seen other companies struggling with this, really, they scoped out an ABAP-based migration process that took them ABAP report-based migration process. That's when they calculated out how long it would take them. They were talking a year and a half for migrating documents. Can you imagine what cost you will occur internally? It might not even need a consultant for a year and a half, but the project is running for a year and a half versus literally 16 days when you choose the migration approach we were choosing in this particular case. And of course, risk is important. So every job is tracked, every batch is supervised. If you have a fairly short time frame, you can apply a lot of diligence. If you have a long time frame, nobody will provide the diligence, because who has the money, who has the time to babysit a project for a year and a half? The tool allows rerunning of errors to eliminate timeouts, server response issues. Each document is automatically tried several times until it actually hits an actual error status, just to avoid that load scenarios, network instability, other hiccups are in the way and create false positives in terms of errors. We do a spot check after each migration run, a visual check of a sample and of error documents, bringing up the actual images, making sure the before and after images look right. I know that's not a guarantee. There's obviously hash codes, there's hash sums built into the product, but we do these visual checks as well, just to make sure that from an end user perspective, everything is all right. And all the error documents are double checked to make sure that they are actually not accessible. And there's multiple reasons, all of which we haven't had a single reason now that a document, because of the migration procedure, is not accessible. It's really because the document is already inaccessible in the source. We do a validation of each batch run with SQL queries against the staging and the migration database, which allows us to verify document IDs and specifically allow us to do completeness checks. And we make sure that we are complete on a different level. We want to make sure that all the documents we have in the good document category and the extra document category, as well as in the good and unconformed category, match up and not a single document is lost in the process. Once the migration was done, we had end users do an end user validation. Specifically a post-cutover validation of the completed migration. We made sure that single documents displayed correctly. The end users performed specific tests in their business scenarios, bringing up documents from a workflow, bringing up documents from their regular transactional screens. They continued obviously their operations while the legacy systems then after completed migration were shut down. The legacy systems, though, are kept available right now for a defined period of time just for backup purposes. And because the way this process is structured, you can actually have the advantage that your legacy archive is not impacted at all. It is not touched. Your legacy archive is completely undisturbed. And also the SAP link tables are completely undisturbed. Another big advantage of this particular technique, because it allows you to switch back at any point in time if it should happen that you realize early on in the process that there should be anything. We haven't had a situation yet of that kind, but if there should be side issues, I can't even think of something right now that would impact the switch, because we are not changing any of the existing legacy information, whether that's on the archive server or in SAP. We really, your existing system is your best and primary backup throughout the whole process. A couple of difficulties we had. Again, I alluded to that a little bit before. We had non-matching document counts between SAP and Ixos, and we found out why, because documents were actually put into the Ixos archive from a legacy SAP system that wasn't even there anymore, and that wasn't relevant for this particular migration. So there were old documents and documents orphans, documents without reference. We analyzed that. We brought it into the open. We had some executive decisions made on that we could safely ignore these documents because they were not relevant for that particular migration. The other problem was the SAP content server that proved highly unstable, required rebooting before and after migration runs, and had a very slow run speed. It could only serve up 2 or 3 documents in less than a document per second, which is very, very slow if you want to migrate a few million documents. And we really had to think hard and work hard to maximize the throughput while at the same time keep the system up and running and make it available for the end users while documents have not been completely migrated off. Also, we learned that it's very important that the target archive is set up completely and there's no dependencies. In our case, the FileNet system had not been set up before, and it was actually impacting some of our project timelines. There were delays there that forced our migration project to be pushed out, the start of it, by a few weeks, because the target system was not up and running and ready. And that had a lot to do with the bank's internal guidelines before a system could be taken online, not so much with FileNet software or architecture in general, but just with the way the rules and IT departments were run. Rules were set and the IT department was run at the bank. Also, scanning platforms had to be integrated, had to be moved over from an Ixos Enterprise scan to a Kofax scan, and that was a separate project that also impacted us a little bit. But overall, migration of 2.8 million documents in less than 16 days, zero business impact with 1 hour cutovers, improvements during the changeover. We consolidated from 3 to 1 archiving system. We centralized archiving for future retention management. Should be much easier now because everything is in one spot. We verified various business applications that they would work with the new archiving solution. We supported the team with that, even though that's not necessarily part of the migration effort. It is something that we have a lot of expertise in, and that expertise came in very handy um, in the process because we were able to help out the project team in with our deep knowledge around any business scenarios that are ArchiveLink related. The proxy server itself handled over 16,000 document retrievals per day. You can see how many people were actually pulling documents, and over 1,600 new archive documents every single day. That is the load that was on the system and that was managed by the proxy while it was still pumping documents to the system. So great software, great accomplishment. Completely seamless for the end users. We throttled down migration a little bit during the day and ran at full speed at night to make sure that we were not impacting any end users. So what worked well? Really, these are turned out to be for us very important details. We used the OpenText database and the SAP Content Server database to investigate the different document types and upfront create a good understanding of the data migrated. So instead of running into panic mode if something wasn't retrievable or created a problem, we did a good analysis upfront. So zero escalation, zero panic, zero, oh my God, what do we do now situations, because it was well planned out and our team has a lot of expertise in these scenarios. We have seen many different pitfalls and know how to handle the specific scenarios. We used an external database, a simple MySQL database, to track and compare the status and verify everything. That database was then preserved and is part of the permanent record. So if there should be any audit on this particular migration process, if somebody in 2 years says, what about this document? Where is it? Why is it not coming up? The bank can go back to these records, can go back to this database and say, well, this is the document. We have proof that it was moved from here to here, actually during the migration process. And then we actually had that situation. We moved the document and then it was deleted just 2 days after migration. And somebody said, well, where's this document? I can't find it anymore. Well, it was correctly deleted. It came over correctly and was correctly deleted. We were able to prove that very easily with the database we were maintaining. Also very important is to have a full work environment available, VPN access for our specialists, email access to servers and databases. That makes this process so much better, so much more attractive to all parties involved. And of course, what is always important is, and we had that lesson here again, the customer has to be responsible for the business test case scenarios, because we are coming in as a specialist from the outside. We don't know the customer's business cases, even though the business cases are not impacted by this specific technique of doing a migration. Still, we need to verify the specific business cases, and we need knowledgeable people within the organization that know how to retrieve a financial document, a sales document, a workflow document, and so on. So as a summary, migration completed with no end user impact. All counts are verified. All database and validation files have been added to the documentation. We created a comprehensive Word document detailing all the project phases, and statistics and counts are available in spreadsheets. Legacy systems are scheduled for shutdown, and I just verified here with the bank recently that everything is happening as planned, and the documents are actually ready to shut down. I checked in 2 months after completion of the migration, and everybody is super happy, and all the documents are migrated over correctly, and the migration is business complete. I don't have enough time for another story, but I have a story here about a manufacturing client. Let me just pick maybe a few slides here that give you a general idea how that could work, or what the maybe I can find the slide that points out the accomplishments. Let's jump in right here. This particular client, 29 million documents migrated in less than 8 weeks. A phenomenal number, close to zero business impact, maintenance cost cut in half, and improving other improvements we did during the changeover is adding security to their web access and switching to a VMware architecture away from a physical HP server architecture. We had to verify over 20 business applications to work with the new archiving solution. That was quite an effort. And again, this actually here taught us that it's very important that there is a clear understanding of who uses the archive and how it's used. Often that gets lost over the years. So that's something we need to make sure is handled during the preparation. I jump over that because we have talked a lot about it. We have a few examples here. Armstrong is one of the largest migrations we have done. Another one for Procter and Gamble, very high volume here as well, and a migration for Justin Brands, mostly data archiving files and some printing forms that were migrated. In some cases, customers go to a target system of their choice. 2 of these actually went to a brand new installed SAP ArchiveLink compliant archive, and they chose the KGS content server for storage, a very lightweight, high efficient product that is superbly designed for just SAP archiving needs. Many customers here that are well-sounding names. Some of them are our customers. All of them have KGS products and are customers that are using KGS software and can vouch for the quality of the software. All the software we use is SAP certified. There's regular certifications be done for the SAP connectivity, ArchiveLink connectivity, as well as SAP ILM connectivity. And KGS as a software partner has solid experience. It's in business since 1996, has been selected by SAP as its worldwide SAP ArchiveLink certification partner. That's why they have such a superb knowledge about the SAP ArchiveLink interface, and a very professional team with clients all throughout the world. solutionXchg is the only US agent for KGS software. We cover Canada, North America, and South America as needed. We're specializing on SAP associated business document and data archiving processes. We do everything from a business process analysis to SAP module customizing, project management, enterprise content management support, as well as many more tasks. We specialize in products by XFT for business applications, by KGS for SAP archiving software and migration products, by Eternity for compliant storage, and in products by PBS and TJC for data archiving tasks. solutionXchg as a boutique software integrator is specializing on innovative German software products and bringing those products to the US market. We're, as I said, an exclusive KGS reseller in the US with strong archiving and document management expertise, over 18 years of experience, and we specialize in low cost, high quality solutions by selected vendors. And I want to end the presentation with a quick summary on the advantages on the KGS migration product. High scalability, multiple instances, multiple servers. KGS software can be run as a VM image, snapshot backup capability, dynamic resource allocation, and we can do interactive load balancing. We can migrate in parallel to business operation. We have no impact on SAP process scenarios because of the proxy capability. The end user doesn't even know that they are accessing the documents while in the midst of a migration process. And that concludes my presentation for today. I hope that gave you a first initial idea of what a migration could be. It gave you some interesting facts about existing migration, and hopefully this helps you to envision a possible migration that might be in your future, even might answer some questions on how you would deal with potentially switching an archive server or consolidating your infrastructure. Please feel free to contact Kristen or me. And with that, I hand it back to Kristen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jochen. So this concludes the presentation section for our webinar for today, and I would like to open the floor now for your questions. Please post your questions in the little question box on the administration console on the right side of your screen. I will start with some of the questions that already came in, and you have time during that to post your own. Jochen, are there any limitations of archive vendors that can be migrated with this tool?
No, there is really no limitation as long as these vendors have products that are completely SAP ArchiveLink compliant. In other words, the documents we are migrating are accessible through the SAP ArchiveLink interface. They don't all have to be in SAP link tables as long as they are retrievable through the SAP ArchiveLink interface, and we have a unique doc ID on these documents. It could be documents that are added to the archive by an outside application, let's say a web application. But most cases we deal with documents that are all known to SAP, known to the SAP ArchiveLink link tables, and the systems are completely SAP ArchiveLink compliant.
Okay, thank you. Another question was, one gentleman asked if you could explain what you call the proxy functionality again.
Yes, the proxy functionality refers to the migration server sitting in between the SAP system and your legacy system as well as your target system. So the proxy functionality here seamlessly brokers requests from SAP and finds out whether a document is already migrated or is still on the source system. Depending where the document is, the proxy pulls it from the correct server and feeds it to SAP. So it really, from day one, when we start this process, we can put new documents into the target system. Just imagine if you do migration projects for in a different way. If you wouldn't use a proxy, but you would use old-fashioned technology, either you would have you can only have one system connected to your to SAP as the primary system at one time. So either you have to postpone throwing documents onto your new server for a year and a half until your migration is complete, or you will have documents that are not accessible because they haven't been migrated yet for a certain period of time. Both very undesirable scenarios in a migration environment. So really, in my opinion, there is nothing that is as powerful as the proxy server that is enabling this migration. It makes it a truly seamless experience.
Yes, I agree. There's one last question, and that is, do clients have to purchase the tool including a full service package, or can they purchase the tool and then we train their basis team and they can do most of the services on their own?
A good question. We have done this in almost all possible scenarios. We have had migration projects where we pretty much supplied the tool, the cache migration server in Proxy, with Proxy functionality, and trained an archive administrator for a couple of days, 2, 3, 4 days, and then just went into standby mode and were available for questions throughout the term of the migration, and everything was done by the customer. And the tool is that easy to use. Of course, then all the validation, the documentation is all needs to be done by the customer. We have done it kind of middle of the road, where we had a consultant working side by side with a customer. A customer basis technology person, and we were jointly working the project and documenting it. That has the advantage that we have a knowledgeable person available that can navigate the customer environment, and we augment that person. And the banking project I referred to, that was a full service project. The bank told us, look, we want you to take full responsibility of the migration effort. Tell us what is needed. We will get you access to the systems and such, and we will do the business validation. But the pumping the documents, doing the day-to-day operations was our full responsibility. And you'd be very welcome to check out the references we got. If you go to our website, you will find a page there with customer quotes, and you will see that this project was highly successful, and we had a really happy customer in the end.
Okay, thank you. And actually, one more question came in, and that is it possible to do a small POC in a non-production environment with this tool?
Absolutely. It is the POC can be done very quickly, usually setting up the migration server, as well as we can supply a target archive as well. We can use the KGS content server, which is the archive that's been used by Armstrong and by other clients, by Procter & Gamble, for example. We can set that up in addition to the migration server, and then we can just pump a few thousand documents from your existing archive into that mock KGS content server archive, and that can be done from in a test environment. We can go against your production archive without any impact on end users, without any impact on your SAP systems, and pump a few thousand documents. Actually, that's what we do usually as a early in the early project phases anyway, to determine the speed of the migration process, to determine your network speed, the speed of the legacy archiving server, and be more than happy to do this under the right circumstances with a proper non-disclosure documents in place, and prove to you how effective the process can be.
Okay, great. We have now answered all the questions that have come in, and therefore that would conclude our webinar today. I'm left with thanking you for your attendance and hope you could get some interesting takeaways from this session. And until next time.